What is good, Tesla family? It's Ray J back with another video. And this one, I want to break down what's going on with Tesla spying a couple more tickers. I want to break down what's going on with the economic calendar, what the news is saying about Tesla and the markets, what you should be watching for as time progresses. But before I break anything down, all this information, before I get into any more details, let me just mention a couple of things. I am firstly not a financial planner, so take nothing I say as financial advice. And also, if you guys can, please smash the like button if you want to see more videos like this. It not only benefits me, it benefits the entire Tesla community as a whole. So, anyways, let's break down what's going on with the markets. Looking at Tesla so far, as of right now, we're still range bound. Every time Tesla hits very close to this 250 range, we tend to see some buyers step in and defend it. And every time Tesla's been hitting 258 to 260, we tend to see sellers come back and smack it back down. So we've been stuck for quite some time, and we need some catalyst to help Tesla try to break this trend. We'll be watching this very carefully going into tomorrow. But I first want to talk about some news, some things that Kathy Wood said, some new things from analysts about Tesla and also the overall markets before I break down what's going on with the charts. So for tomorrow, as a reminder, tomorrow, the market's going to open at the normal time, and then at 10 o'clock a.m. Eastern Standard Time, we have some manufacturing numbers and shipments. All this data is going to be coming out. That's going to be very important. Not to mention that more services data coming out at 10:30 a.m. So at 10 o'clock a.m. and 10:30 a.m., look for some volatility if this causes any sort of like move. And besides that, all the other pieces of data are very minor as we have the 17-week bill auction and such. So tomorrow, 30 minutes after market open, 10 a.m. to 10:30, watch for some volatility, and then besides that, the market is going to be in the clear for some data. Now, as a reminder, it's a very short trading week. The market was closed yesterday, which was Christmas for Monday. Today was Tuesday. The market had a decent day as we saw some buyers defend, and then for tomorrow, it's just going to be Wednesday. Then we have Thursday and Friday, and then that's pretty much it for the year. So just 3 more trading days for the year. It's going to be very fun to watch. We'll see how things go. As of right now, it's looking like the market's trying to hold up nicely to close the year in a very strong note. And so far, so good. I would just say that, it's been a good year, very, very strong end to the year so far. And we'll see how next year goes, especially going into next week. Now, when it comes to other factors, I just want to call out that the fear and greed index is at extreme greed. Now, this tends to mark tops, but not always and not always exactly. This tends to tell us that a pullback is going to be coming soon. It doesn't have to happen immediately. It could take a couple of weeks. The market will likely pull back, in my opinion, sometime in January. But we're not ready yet as the market is continuing to hold up. The reason why I'm saying this, though, is because when we see indicators hitting these extremes, from market momentum to the put and call positioning, this tends to tell us that, wait a minute, the market's continuing to get bought up, sentiment's turning greedy, people are turning way, way, way too excited, they're buying in like crazy. And this is what's going to incentivize those market makers to cause the opposite, to cause more pain. So I just wanted to warn you guys about this. This is very important. So am I saying the market has to crash? No. Am I saying the market has to pull back tomorrow? No. We could still hold up for another couple of days, couple of weeks, but soon, within the next month, there's a very good chance there's going to be a pullback coming. Could be coming sometime in January, and this is giving us a warning about that. That's what I'm trying to tell you just by looking at this. Right now, futures are holding up quite nicely. We got a nice push on the S&P 500 futures, not to mention others out there. As the S&P is just looking for a new all-time high. We're getting very close to it. We'll be watching it very closely at that resistance. Now, why did Tesla outperform the markets today? We had some big news. The Chinese EV insurance registrations came out. I made a video about this in the morning with more details, but basically I have some numbers here. We had 18,500 from Tesla, which is not bad whatsoever, a big improvement relative to before. Right here, you can see their insurance registrations went up again, a nice increase month over month, and that's great news for Tesla. Once again, it looks to me like they're on track for their all-time highs for the yearly deliveries, and it's pretty good for them in my opinion. So with their big increase in deliveries, there's some other things going on so far. There's some other pieces of news coming out there about Elon Musk. Uh, but this is actually very interesting because a new survey is showing that Elon Musk isn't driving away Tesla buyers with his Twitter drama. At least, this was like before like some of the other things that were going on according to the reports. But I would say I still agree with this because despite all the madness associated with Musk, what the media says about him, Tesla buyers are not going away. And you're going to see evidence of that next week, in my opinion. I believe there's a very good chance that what Piper Sandler is saying, I actually have the data right here. They're saying that Tesla will post 507,000 deliveries in Q4 for 1.83 million for 2023. I really believe Tesla's going to meet the target. That's my prediction too. I think they're going to come very close, if not breaking it. And you're going to be seeing a lot of interest in the stock after that. And I also want to add that it's not just me saying that with these big projections. Kathy Wood is saying the same thing, but her rationalization is a little bit different. She was actually doing a nice in depth comparison between GM and other EVs with Tesla. And that's very important because she was saying that there's some companies out there that are kind of like delaying some of their EV investments. They're trying to just sway away from them just temporarily because of the current interest rates and the current macroeconomic factors. And for them to be profitable with these EVs, they have to be like scaling up basically. But she mentioned that the reason why she's suddenly becoming a lot more interested in Tesla is because not only does Tesla have a strong long term future, but she's seen a lot of progress being made for some short term gains. She's seen progress, and by short term, I mean like for the next few months. She's seen progress for the robo taxi. She thinks that's going to be a killer for them on the autonomous side as well. And she mentioned that moving forward, with the big numbers that are coming out, Tesla is still way ahead of the game. So a lot of what she said has to do with like kind of like previous claims that she's made in the past. She's mentioned that Tesla's very much just ahead of the game. She's very confident as of recently, and it has a lot to do with their positioning right now when it comes to their flagship funds and such. So relative to other companies like GM and Ford, this is part of what gave her a bigger like confidence booster into Tesla, and she's very excited about how things are going to go. So that's great news for Tesla. The news already came out last week that she started to buy more into it, but she's still continuing to give us more evidence about why that is and why she's still very excited for like the more near term. So that's good news. One thing about Tesla that's not so great is that the volume is slowing down a bit. So this is no surprise since it's like the day after Christmas. Hopefully we get more volume tomorrow. 88 million in total. Not the best, but still Tesla held up, which is a pretty decent sign. And then when it comes to the overall positioning, the short volume has been kind of flat at this 64% area. Now, RBC Capital is saying Tesla's going to outperform the market, so is Wedbush, which is great news. Price price ratio is holding up as Tesla is still maintaining a decent place relative to the market. And finally, don't forget that although Decembers are historically a little bit weaker for Tesla, kind of like 50-50, Januaries are historically much stronger. 70% of the time, Tesla tends to be green in January. This could be affected by the market if the market gets some kind of pullback. But I think a big factor when starting off the first week of January is going to be their deliveries. That's going to be coming out within a week from now. It's going to be very important. Uh, Wednesdays tend to be green only about 48% of the time, so just be a little cautious. And then look for volatility around noon. That's an Eastern Standard Time, and also at 2 p.m. That tends to be one of the most volatile hours for Tesla, which is very interesting. And that's pretty much it. I'm not seeing anything else that's too crazy when it comes to Tesla's news. This has been so far so good for them. So what do I see for Tesla's? Now let's just break down the technicals. Honestly, guys, the bullish candlestick right here is quite decent for Tesla, but the volume is a little bit low on the daily, so I see that as something that's a little concerning. But here's our key support. 252.5 is where we have the 200 EMA on the daily time frame. Make sure you watch that very carefully. That is Tesla's key support, at least moving forward. Now, what is Tesla doing? It's very simple. Historically, for the last couple of weeks, we hit 258 to 260, then we reject. And then when we reach, we did touch 247 at one instance, but besides that, typically it's very close to that 250 range, like $2 above, $2 below. When we hit that range, we tend to see Tesla get bought right back up around 250. So it's been doing this for the last couple of weeks, right? Since the 14th of December. It's just been going back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. Not much has been changing. So going into tomorrow, I think there's a good chance the market might cap down just a little bit. Then we're going to be looking for a push upon open. That's what tends to happen to Tesla. If you look at the last few weeks, we tend to push upon open. So we're going to look for one more push. And it's going to be trying to fight 258. This is going to be a big test because I think Tesla's going to try to attempt to break this. We're going to see if this breaks or not. If we break this, we could be looking for 260. That's where we have this yellow resistance right here. If we get above 260, if we close above this, we're going to turn really bullish. That's going to be the more bullish case. If we're bearish, we're going to be making an attempt to break out, and we could fail. So watch this 258 resistance very carefully. That's going to be our big test. If we get rejected off that, there's going to be a risk of it coming back down to 256. If that fails, let's watch 254, and then we have 252, 250, and 247 below that. So I'm seeing this is the most likely possibility. Tesla attempting to try to fight for 258 to 260. Depending on the news and such, I think it's going to try. It might gap down, then push up. Then we'll see if it rejects or not. This is going to be very, very tricky. So far, we keep rejecting off 258, so we'll see if we reject or not. So watch that very carefully. And then there's going to be a good chance that Tesla will eventually try to break this, especially as we approach deliveries. So I think that later on down the line, Tesla will break it eventually, but I'm not sure about tomorrow specifically. All right, so look for a little gap down and then a push up upon open. It's going to test 258. If we break it, could push higher for 260, but watch it carefully at this resistance. Can we close above the yellow trend line? If we close above it, we're going to turn really bullish. As of right now, Tesla is stationary, which means it's just going back and forth between supply and demand. We'll just have to wait and see. If we could get above this yellow trend line, we could turn more bullish again. I just have to wait and see. All right, so watch supply and demand. Look for a little gap and then a push up tomorrow. I think Tesla's going to try to push higher, but we're going to be watching this test. Can we maintain these levels? Can we try to get above 258 to 260? And we'll see how it goes going into tomorrow. Now, as far as SPY goes, SPY is looking bullish. This could help Tesla to some extent with the push. I'm calling this out because SPY has been continuing to make higher highs and higher lows. If you want to turn into a bear, you need to see SPY break below this support right here. Not just break it, but you need to see like a follow through move. And I'll explain everything. So you want to hold this. This is what it's doing so far. It's uptrending slowly, pushing, and right now the trend looks bullish, right? Especially because we want to see this thing break 476. A break above that would take this to 478. But here's the thing about this: if you're bearish, especially on SPY, you're gonna be looking at this liquidity right here. To turn bearish, here's what you want to see. You want to see this thing change its direction in the market structure. Right now, what is this thing doing? Higher high, higher low, higher high, higher low, back and forth and back and forth. It's doing this basically, right? Which is why it's bullish. If you want to turn bearish, you need to see this thing reject, break out of this trendline zone, and then we need to basically establish a lower high. That's how you turn bearish. We want to see this thing start to make lower highs and lower lows, completely flip directions, right? Hasn't done that yet, so I can't turn super bearish just yet. So for that reason, it looks bullish. The chart's looking bullish. We're making higher highs and higher lows and still holding support. Going to be looking for another push up tomorrow morning. If we maintain this support at 476, if we manage to break and hold that, 478 is going to be our target, and if that breaks, 480 is coming next. For support, make sure you watch 475. If that fails us, there's 474, 473.5, then we have 472 and 470 below that. As of right now, we're on a nice uptrend. We're favoring the bulls a bit more. Might be a little gap down tomorrow, followed by a nice push up. If we could achieve that, there's still potential for the bulls to take over. They are taking the edge right now, and there's a good chance that the bulls will come back tomorrow. They're stronger so far. As of right now, based off technicals and such, that's what I'm seeing. On the triple Q, you guys could see we managed to close above 411, which is a good sign. So with this thing pushing up, watch this support just like SPY. Watch this trend line right here. Do we hold this trend line? If we keep holding this, we're going to continue higher for 412 plus. If we break below this, watch 410 as support. There's 409 to 409.5-ish, that range from today. Then we have 408 below that. And if that fails us, we could come all the way down to 405.7. In my opinion, the triple Q looks bullish. We're making higher highs, higher lows, continuing to hold up. And SPY and the QQQ are moving together. SPY is also helping because of the fact that it wants to go for those all-time highs. So far, the market is favoring the bulls a bit more. I also want to mention that when it comes to SPY, let me just call this out. As far as SPY goes, when you look at the weekly time frame, let me just show you what this looks like. On the weekly time frame, SPY has its all-time high very close to that 480 area. So if I zoom out, 480 is the all-time high right over here. You guys can see this. I think it's going to try to go for that all-time high. It's trying to get there by Friday. There's a good chance we're going to get there, but then we'll see what happens with the resistance up there. As far as Nvidia goes, I just want to call out Nvidia. Nvidia is kind of up in the after hours, but we're going to be watching this resistance here. The weekly is looking kind of bullish, and on the 4-hour time frame, you can see that it has an imbalance to fill. It wants to go up towards like 500. It's trying, could get closer as we're about to get a bullish PPO crossover. So what do I see for Nvidia? We had this channel. It's actually trying to get back into this channel. This was the original channel. Maybe I could try to like adjust this. I could still try to like do something like this, but it doesn't really matter, guys, because ultimately Nvidia is still holding up nicely, whether you draw it differently or not. It's on a nice uptrend. I think that it could retrace a bit tomorrow morning, back test a low 490s, then bounce and start pushing up higher. I think that ultimately we're going to see 497 and possibly even 500 where these wicks are. So a little drop in pop is what I'm anticipating, and I think that Nvidia is going to push up towards 500 very soon. It's been making higher highs and higher lows, higher highs, higher lows, higher highs, higher lows, continuing to uptrend. 497 should be coming, then 500 very soon, in my opinion. It looks bullish. I could turn bearish if we start closing below 488, by the way. If we end up switching directions, so far it hasn't done that. It's favoring the bulls a bit more. So 500 is what I'm anticipating as a nice target, 497 at the very least. For Apple stock, I want to call out that Apple is on a downtrend. If you look at Apple, it's been downtrending, lower high, lower low, lower high, lower low, but at the same time, it's trying to base right here. It's trying to form a base. You guys can see this. It's trying to hold up and it's trying to hold support at this 192.8 to 193 range. Below that, we have support at 192.5. Apple is in a critical state. It's trying to base. We're going to be watching to see if this could break out. Can we break this resistance right here and try to get back above 193.5? To turn bullish, you want to see it break 193.5. Hasn't done that yet. It hasn't done it yet. So we have to watch that for tomorrow if it could end up achieving that. But right now, we have this downtrend. It is technically a little bit weak, but it's trying to base, and we're going to be watching to see if we can get that break. We can't turn bullish until we get a clean break. We need to get above 193.5 and close above that and hold very nicely. If it does that, there is going to be some hope for the bulls. My guts tells me it's going to attempt to try to bounce, but we're not ready quite yet. We're going to be looking for some more liquidity to be grabbed. We want to see more wicks like this. It needs more time, but we're going to be watching for that attempt. So it could come down, then attempt to break. It's going to try. It's going to try. Might not achieve it tomorrow. Could take a little bit longer, but I think later on down the line, it's going to eventually get a small little bounce, and then we'll see how it goes from there. So look for a little pop and a little drop on Apple and a little pop and attempts to break out soon. It could last just a few days, but I think that there is some potential for Apple. Anyways, that's it for the main five I typically talk about, guys. Tesla's in a decent state right now. It's just trying to hold up, but it's at that very, very key supply zone. So we'll see how Tesla does. I want to call out to just a couple more tickers just to be quick. So as a reminder, guys, Neo is breaking out. They had a very, very nice Neo day. This is a very, very good play. It still has potential to go up to the daily 200 EMA at 9.7. In my opinion, this was a good play. We were calling Neo out in the past since $7, still breaking out, looking quite strong. For the Russell 2000, IWM, 205 is going to be our target. If it breaks this, it could get very close to 210 to 212. That's another possibility. It's still on a very, very strong uptrend. Looks bullish to me on the IWM. For Microsoft, this is very flat. It's been stuck between supply and demand, kind of indecisive on the daily, so it could retrace towards 372, then bounce, but watch it just remain range bound, at least for the time being. For AMD, I would say this is looking a little bit more bullish now. It's trying to hold up as it managed to break resistance at 142. So I could see this get very close to 145. That's the previous level. If it breaks that, 150 could be another target as well. Looks a little bit more bullish overall. The VIX is very indecisive. It attempted to break the 50 EMA on the daily time frame and failed, and it got back below the 20 EMA on the daily. So it's looking kind of weak. The VIX might come back down, might kind of like bounce in the morning, then drop, which tells us that the overall market could actually kind of drop tomorrow morning, then bounce. So I think the VIX is going to like cause something like that, a little like pop and drop. But I still think that ultimately it's looking weak. There's no sign of it basically bouncing yet, so we just want to be patient. Coinbase is looking kind of indecisive. I'm going to be looking for a back test of about 167.5, then a little bit of downside. It could actually drop just a bit more. We were talking about that as well, but it's going to bounce later on. Google looks kind of indecisive on the daily. Daily's looking kind of weak. I could be looking for a 141 retest before it tries to bounce. Just be a little careful with that. For Amazon, we're going to be looking for this thing to retest 151.75 where this wick is. We saw this liquidity being grabbed up here before they started to drop it. It might retrace just a little bit, but I think that it's going to be flat for the most part. So it could like touch 151 point something, then come right back up. I'm not seeing that much. It's very flat, but I see it kind of like dropping a little bit and coming back up after that liquidity. Uh, on Meta, very indecisive. Typically, when you see dojis like this forming, we could be looking for a backtest of 351 at our daily 5 EMA. It could backtest 351 and come back up and just remain kind of flat. I think that's what's going to most likely happen to Meta. Anyways, guys, that's it for the video. Hopefully this video was helpful. I tried to be very meticulous when making this video, so please have a great rest of the day. Remain calm, cool, and collected, and I'll see you guys very soon for the next video. Thank you. Have a great day. See you guys tomorrow morning. Tesla in the market to the moon because the long term is very bright. And peace out.